Hi, the beginning of a new week. Welcome to the marketplace. Coming up this afternoon, IMF pushes for an increase in taxes to contain rising debt stock and reduce government's dependency on aid. Also coming up, Ghana's country risk index of 53.9% places it first ahead of 4 top West and Central African countries. That's in terms of having the best investment climate. Also this afternoon, economists cast doubts over government's end-of-year inflation target despite consistent decline over the past 2 months. My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for being with us. Details right after this break. In our first story this afternoon, the IMF is pushing for some tax increases to help contain rising debt stock and support government's quest to reduce dependency on aid. The fund raised these concerns at the launch of its Regional Economic Outlook report in Washington, D.C. George Affe has more.
IMF believes that this is part of several measures that government can consider to help deal with its rising debt stock. The fund, for instance, believes that Ghana's total debt stock in relation to the size of the economy in percentage terms would hit 77% by the close of this year. That might not be good for a low middle-income country like Ghana and the pressure that it will put on government finances. The country's total debt stock currently stands at around 263 billion Ghana cedis, ending July this year. But responding to a question posed by Joy Business, the director of the African Department, Abebe Selassie, speaking from Washington, D.C., believes that reviewing the country's revenue mobilization drive could help correct this, especially at a time that Ghana is poised to move ahead with less dependency on aid.
As the president has been saying, Ghana beyond aid, that's absolutely the right vision. And of course, that aid has to be replaced by tax revenues and other permanent domestic sources of financing rather than debt. And so effecting that transfer is really what's going to be key. And we'll be working with the government through the Article 4 process to provide technical advice, whatever the government needs.
But with the IMF's projection of the debt-to-GDP ratio hitting 77%, maybe for some, it's just a matter of time in terms of the IMF and the World Bank classifying Ghana as a high-distress country and the real challenge that will present to the economy, the possible impact on the cost of borrowing and how that would impact on government finances going forward. In the 2020 budget, government, for instance, is setting aside some 21 billion Ghana cedis just for paying interest on loans. The country currently spends significant amounts of revenue raised to pay its debts and salaries of the public sector workers, leaving little for capital projects. But the question still stands, are Ghanaians ready to pay more taxes to deal with this challenge, especially looking at the cost of borrowing and its impact on the economy? Or whether it's about how these taxes are used, are they going to the right sectors of the economy to deal with this challenge?
Now, Ghana's risk index of 53.9% has placed it first ahead of 4 top West and Central African countries. That's according to an assessment by Fitch Solutions, research arm of ratings agency Fitch. This means Ghana is the best place to invest in the ECOWAS and Central Africa regions. Charles Nixon Yeboah has been studying the various risk elements and reports.
The country's high score of both political and operational risk index propelled it to the first position ahead of Gabon, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, and Cameroon. According to Fitch Solutions, a high score index means a lower risk in terms of investment climate. The nation scored 69.7 and 72.9% for the short and long-term political risk, while its 44.1% operational risk index score placed it higher than the other 4 countries assessed. For the economic risk index, the nation recorded 41 and 51.6% for the shorter and longer term respectively. The country's economic performance will, however, trail Ivory Coast, which will become the fastest growing economy this year, and Nigeria in both the short and long term. However, Ghana's overall high rank index pushes it as the best place to do business in West and Central Africa. This is largely because the uncertainty associated with investing here, and more specifically the degree to which that uncertainty could lead to losses for investors, is very low. The country's economic pointers have looked good this year despite COVID-19. Growth is expected to hover around 1% this year and make it a top performer globally, while inflation and exchange rates have remained low and relatively stable. Though the debt level is worrying, it is not likely the nation will default in its loan repayments.
Now, the Ejima Kwahoma Rural Bank is envisaging a rise in profit margins despite setbacks posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. To mitigate the impact of the pandemic on operations, the bank has restructured policies to keep the business afloat. Now, this includes improving the use of mobile technology in banking and customer-focused policies. Chief Executive Officer Dr. Stephen Safo-Kantanka reveals the response of clients to the new arrangement is part of the success. Nana Ejima was at the 37th Annual General Meeting of the bank and filed this report.
Despite a difficult financial year in 2019, the Ejima Kwahoma Rural Bank recorded a profit after tax of over 3 million cedis. There was, however, a marginal dip in the profits realized in the previous year. Board Chairman Patrick Osu says the drop in profit could be attributed to the cleanup of the financial sector in the year under review.
There were a lot of anxiety among our clients. So initially, when the reform started, speculations here and there also caused a bit of disruption. But I would say that due to the assurances that the Bank of Ghana gave and our own effort reaching out to our clients, we bounced back.
Nonetheless, customer confidence in the financial institution has bounced back as the bank re-strategized to compete. Some of the measures include expansion to reach more clients, leading to opening of a new branch at Bantama.
There is an emerging market at the race course where we have a lot of our displaced clients from Central Market and the redeveloped Kajitia. So we decided to chase them up there and make business with them. Apart from that, that place is also another emerging business enclave.
In response to COVID-19 pandemic, the bank improved its digitized services, enabling clients to transact business in the period of the lockdown. Beyond responding to business needs of clients, an extension in payment of loans was instituted. Dr. Stephen Safo-Kantanka is Chief Executive Officer.
What we did was to give a COVID relief to our customers, especially those who have taken loans, especially those who were teaching in the private schools. The schools have been closed down, they were not being paid. So we met them, had a discussion with them, and we gave them 6 months moratorium where we're not going to charge extra interest.
For Joy Business, Nana Ejima reporting.
Turning to one of our top stories this afternoon, the director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, Professor Peter Cotor, is casting doubts over government's end-of-year inflation target despite consistent decline in the rate over the last couple of months. Inflation declined marginally to reach 10.4% in September, largely influenced by food prices. Now, this has caused many to believe that government is likely to meet its target of 8.5%, but Professor Cotor tells Joy Business the target cannot be met. He joins us with more analysis on this. Thanks for your time this afternoon, Prof. So, why do you think the target would not be met for this year?
Well, it's my belief that the government would miss this target narrowly for two reasons. In the last quarter, there is demand pressure, especially for Christmas purchases and the rest. Then also, we are in an election year, and December is quite a busy period where demand pressure also picks up quite significantly. So based on these two, I don't expect this target to be met. It would have been worse, but for COVID, so some real or some incomes have been lost. People have lost their jobs. Some parts of the economy or economic activity is not at its full capacity. So there is also the income effect where people don't really have enough income to spend. So there will be a balance, and on the balance of all these factors, I expect the inflation rate to inch close to the target, but I'm not sure we'll be able to meet the target 8.5% as predicted.
I want to ask you what, by your own projections, what you think the target would likely be by the end of the year. But I want to run you through what the IMF's forecast has been, which is 11.6%. And I want to know if this is achievable.
Sorry, 11 for inflation?
Yes, end of year inflation rate of 11.6%.
Oh, yeah, that is certainly achievable. I expect something below that. Something in the range of 9 to 10.5%. I think that is achievable. However, it will come with a lot of work if we do not overspend, especially during this heavy campaign period. If there is not too much supply of money in the system. But the good news is that I think agriculture, food inflation has not been very rapid or significant like it used to be. I think our food production has helped because of COVID and the closure of the borders. We have learned to produce more of what we consume. So on the balance of all of this, I expect us to be in the range of 9.5%.
Right. And aside from checking overspending, what else can government really do to ensure that, we get a favorable rate at the end of the year?
Well, the issue about growing the economy, we've seen food production increase. We've seen some support to households, also the electricity and water tariff, for instance. So if this is maintained, at least if electricity prices are not increased or fuel prices are not increased astronomically, then it's very likely we might also meet the target. But I expect the real sector, continuous injection of funds and incentives into the real sector so that agriculture production, manufacturing, etc. would also increase. So we minimize the supply factors that cause inflation.
And Prof, I want to run by you another story we are airing today, which has to do with the IMF pushing for some tax increases to help contain the rising debt stock and support government's quest to reduce dependency on aid. When it comes to increase in taxes, not so many people want to hear about that. What do you think the IMF's thinking is right now? And is it advice we should heed?
Well, in times of this, in times of recession, in times of pandemic, I don't think tax increases is the option to go. I am yet to see any country announce tax increases in this COVID era. What rather has to be encouraged is the need to broaden the tax base, so make tax collection efficient. And if GRA can find means of even those doing a lot of online business, find a way of taxing that segment, and also roping more people into the tax net. Now we have, luckily for us, we have the national identification card being rolled out, so we know where people are and what they do. We can broaden the tax base, not the tax rate. I don't support this idea of increasing taxes in a pandemic, in a recession. I'm yet to see any economy move in that direction in this period, and it's not something I support.
Very well said. We are in difficult times, and I'm not too sure people want to hear about tax increases. Thanks very much for your time this afternoon, Professor Peter Cotor, an economist there, sharing some perspective on some of the stories we're running this afternoon on the marketplace. We're taking a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're at the marketplace. Now, government through the National Information Technology Agency, NITA, has moved to avert threats to cybersecurity in the country. It has unveiled a security operations center to monitor the cybersecurity space of the entire national data center. There's more in the following report.
As part of ensuring quality information technology and the promotion of standards, the National Information Technology Agency, NITA, has launched the Security Operations Center to monitor threats to cybersecurity. This was done through the introduction of e-government program financed by the World Bank. The center has been designed to monitor the entire national data center. It will be operational 24/7 and managed by 6 experienced cybersecurity agents. Speaking at the launch, the Director General of NITA, Richard Oshie, said the importance of this innovation should not be underestimated.
The quest to ensure the provision of quality information communication technology and promoting standards of efficiency and high quality of service cannot be achieved without making sure that there's some high level of assurance of operating in a safe and secure cyberspace. This is why I see today's official opening of the SOC as a very significant step towards achieving the digitization agenda under the leadership and the government of His Excellency, the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. One cannot overemphasize how critical, vital, and relevant the establishment of this center is to the ICT architecture of the country.
The Minister of Communications, Esla Owusu-Ekufo, said the Security Operations Center will facilitate the identification of patterns.
Not every organization would have the capacity, the wherewithal to be able to put in its own defense mechanisms. This is scalable enough to accommodate both the public sector and the private sector, which needs protection from the cyber criminals out there. And we all do. The more we engage online, the more exposed we are to cyber attack. And you may not have the eyes to see where it's coming from. This center would assist us to know which IP address the attack is coming from, and even block the detected IP addresses. The training facility for me is even more interesting because it gives us the opportunity to provide hands-on training to build the capacity of our own staff and Ghanaian personnel in this very specialized area. And I keep encouraging people to get into cybersecurity because worldwide, we don't have enough people with the right skills to man all the installations that we're putting in place. So anyone who has those capabilities will be assured of a job any day, anywhere, if you have the right capability. And I think this would add to our efforts to build up local capacity in this area and even for export in the sub-region and beyond.
Now, the Africa Export and Import Bank, together with the Secretariat of the Continental Free Trade Area, is making progress with moves to reduce the cost of transacting business among African countries under the Trade Pact. Now, the cost of doing business has been identified as a key challenge in promoting intra-Africa trade due to the unavailability of a common payment system for all the 54 countries. However, speaking with journalists in Accra, Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat, Wamkele Meni, hinted that the common trade platform is in the offing.
So you have to develop first, as a primary step, you have to develop a country's export capacity. And export development is at the core of this conference. So that businesses, private sector, small, medium enterprises, so that they know how to reach new markets on the African continent. So this is very much part of implementation of the AfCFTA, the pillar of export development.
You spoke about currency when it comes to trading among African nations and your collaboration with Afro-Exim Bank. Yes. How far is it going? How soon are we going to have it? 1st January, is it possible?
Well, we are working as hard as we can to make sure that the Pan-African payments and settlement platform is rolled out and is up and running as early as possible next year. I'm not able to give timelines now because we're working with Afro-Exim Bank. However, we are fully conscious of the fact that it has to be up and running if we want to reduce the cost of transactions and the cost of trade in Africa. So we are trying to make sure that as we roll out the trading date on the 1st of January 2021, that the platform is rolled out at the same time. But it's difficult to give a deadline, but we're working as hard as we can to make sure that we achieve that objective. Well, we have rules. The AfCFTA agreement it creates obligations for state parties there are rules that every state party has to abide by. So we would have to look at the context. We would have to look at the merits of the issue. We would have to look to see what does the law say about a particular action that a state party takes. But remember that that the agreement binds only state parties. If you have not ratified the agreement, you are not bound by it. But we intend to make sure that the rule of law in terms of the agreement itself, that it is fully applicable.
And that's the marketplace this Monday afternoon. Stay tuned.